don't know what that was about. So in general, when you referencing love, when you referencing like a relationship, right? It's a reason that a person not calling you at night or a person not laying up with you as fine as you are, as handsome as you are, as sexy as you are, as smart as you are, as intelligent as you are. It's a reason. But your ability to seek out criticism is your ability to get better. If you are, now people is really, so this is how I got here. I got here the long way, right? I was just like you, but when I was young, I got hit early and I got hit fast and I got hit hard. I don't know. I just always felt like the butt of people's jokes. And not only was I the butt of people's jokes, they was letting me know. Like, you know what I'm saying? People was clowning on me hard. So, you know, I live with that shit. I ate that shit. And for real, I never had any good comebacks either, because I had a real love in my heart. You know what I'm saying? I had a real passion in my heart, and I ain't have the energy to snap back. So generally, I would absorb those criticisms, and they would be generally in the realm of being dark-skinned and being overweight. And generally, that was kind of like a bad combination. So growing up, I had the mentality that, like, being dark-skinned, being overweight was generally like the worst thing you could be out here in these streets. Because in my mind, and you know that memory has a funny way of replaying history, so you can correct me as I'm wrong. And I talked to a lot of people in high school, they'd be like, "No, man, you was cool as fuck." I don't know what you're talking about. But in my mind, I felt like I was the butt of everybody's joke. So generally, I felt like I couldn't really have friends or whatever. And so growing up, I had to like overcompensate. I had to be like the smartest person. I had to, you know, try to hustle the hardest. I had to come up with the dopest songs. I had to like come up with the hardest YouTube videos. I had to like overcompensate, because that was the root of my drive. However, when you put yourself out there in a positive manner, most people like, "Yo, that's dope. Yo, that's great. Yo, that's dope. Yo, that's cool." Or they don't say nothing. You rarely hear a motherfucker saying, "Man, this is some bullshit. Man, cut this bullshit off." Right? And when they do, it don't necessarily sting like that. So you don't have no way to get better for real if you judging it off of other people. This is where constructive criticism gets very valuable, when you seek it out. Because for me, I think I came to a point in my evolution where I acknowledged the criticism and I began to make changes immediately. And I know that it's not over. I realized that in this path that I'm taking, in this life that I'm choosing, it's going to be criticisms from other people, from the outside looking in. And if it resonates, then I have to make the change. If it don't resonate, I just keep it moving. But noticing the difference between the two is really important when you reference chakra work. Because one of two ways. To trigger the spiritual journey, one has to go deep into crisis or make a decision. Because human beings, we exist on a level of like right above crisis. What I call it is check to check, right? And for a lot of people, you can make $500 a week. You can make $20,000 a week and still be check to check, because a person that's making $500 a week his or her rent might be $700 a month. The person that's making $20,000 a week, his or her rent is probably $25,000 a month, okay? And because of these circumstances, because of the way that society is structured, a lot of people live in a level right above stress, right? Because most people, they have a vehicle, they have a home, right? But you take that vehicle away, you take that home away, now they don't got no car, they catching a bus, now they homeless. You know, very few of us have multiple properties, very few of us have multiple vehicles and things of that nature, and some of us do. But I'm speaking for the majority right now, and I'm speaking for the need of chakra work in relation to criticism being the actual trigger to help you evolve, and you being able to seek it without going through a major crises, out of body experience, near death, you know, those types of things, grieving a horrible loss. You know, you don't have to go through all of that to accept your spiritual journey, but you cannot accept your spiritual journey accepting stress. Now, what is stress? Stress is the overall removal of divine time. And divine time, once you add divine time, it begins to speak to you in a specific way. So generally people think like the spiritual process is just you being validated in all of your insanity. And for some people, I imagine that it is like that. But for me, I never was validated in my insanity. And that kind of threw me. It blew me, because I imagined that if spirituality was right and exact, or if God exists, then I have about 20 light-skinned girls, a nice-ass whip on 20-inch rims, and everything would be peachy keen. But since life didn't work out that way, I imagined that something was wrong with God, something was wrong with my soul, and something inevitably was wrong with me, so I continued to move through life that way. And so in order for me to build up my psyche, or so I thought, I was seeking out praise, I was seeking out adoration, I was seeking out enablement. And what that did was further misdirect me. And be clear, there are no mistakes, but in reference to activating my pituitary gland, it actually had to get triggered by a stress response. See, generally we have stresses, but how we respond is usually through what I would say sex, food, or eating, to which people generally get in relationships so they can have sex and eat food and, you know, do these things with the same person. Or you're single and you're doing it with different people, or you're not doing with anybody, but you want to be, so you just do it by yourself, meaning you masturbate and you eat out alone, right? So generally, we have these needs, we have these desires, and they're rooted in being better. But generally, if you're not able to do that within your relationship, then you're easily triggered. If you are able to be with a person and be criticized, and a person criticizes you and it stings, that's when you know you need to do something. Now, if a person criticizes you and it don't have nothing to do with you, maybe you laugh it off, maybe you get a new relationship. But generally, if you in a committed relationship, this person done had your kids, y'all got babies together, and maybe that don't mean nothing, but y'all done broke bread together, y'all got houses in both of y'all names, maybe that don't mean shit to you, but y'all not madly in love no more, and now the real shit come out, because the reality of yourself, and this ain't nothing between me and my wife, I'm just trying to, it's not even a story, it's a non-factor, but it is an interesting turn of events that led me to actually begin to propel my journey within the span of just like 6 hours. So I'm just spreading and sharing this message. So generally, between me and when you're in a relationship, that person that is observing you has a better vantage point on you than you. Now, depending on the energy that you're feeding them, y'all can have a beautiful, healthy, prosperous relationship, unless one of y'all is either afraid, right? Or you just don't care because you're getting what you need to get, or you're just down for the enabling, meaning that you're just trying to, ride in the passenger seat while they do bank robberies and shit, right? You're not even really caring about the overall outcome of the equation, because that essentially is the result of a relationship. It is an equation. So you ultimately can be like, you can't be in a relationship and be like, oh, well, that's him, or oh, that's her, she need to get her shit together, or he need to get his shit together. It's generally we and them and us. So in order to present a positive equation, y'all gotta be 100 with each other. And sometimes your 100ness is not always going to be, oh baby, you look so good today, right? Sometimes is, you need to get your shit together, bro. You need to get your shit together, sis. And you gotta be mature enough to be able to handle that. Because if you as a man or as a woman, or however you identify yourself, are able to take criticism without being emotional, because we're not talking about stress, we're talking about the responses to stress. Now, this is a whole nother level. So you being included in this conversation is like the most exclusive club on the planet, in the universe, because generally what you'll hear is overall the same stress response, as opposed to a response can't be altered. And I know that it's hard to alter a response, but it is so possible, and it is so doable when you understand that you are a spiritual being having a human experience and not the other way around. Because generally what you will be responding to is a natural human response centered in fight or flight. So generally when you have a relationship paradigm, you have either these two scenarios playing out, unless you're able to have open and honest communication that's going to alleviate that stress response system. And you generally will, if you love somebody, you're generally not going to say shit, right? So what happens when you don't say shit? You are thus committing suicide, because you're producing the hormones such as cortisol, such as adrenaline, right? Because you're holding this shit in. You're frustrated. You want to say something, but you just don't, because you don't want to hurt that person's feelings. You don't want to criticize them. The beauty of criticism, though, is that if it hurts, right? A lot of couples listen to me, and I really appreciate that, because generally I'm representing that paradigm. And the effort that it takes to be successful in the relationship, because it's not glitz and glamour. And generally, if you know a person that's referencing glitz and glamour in the realms of relationship, slide them my DM or whatever. But overall, the effort that it takes to be in a successful relationship, to be in a thriving relationship where both parties know their roles and we become stars in our own roles, and we don't think about ourselves individually, we think about each other as a team. Thus, like, in a team atmosphere, you got to be able to be honest. And that honesty is never going to come across nice and kind all the time. So I'm referencing y'all particular fantasies when it comes into relationships as to why it didn't work out, based upon the way that a person spoke to you or the way that a person made you feel. Because generally, if they were in the space of, and it varies. So let me kind of walk on thin ice, but I would say, if you were interested in knowing, it would be wise for you to collect data. Because me personally, I will hit my exes up like, say man, for real. Like, now I know I wasn't tripping, but tell me that another nigga loved you harder than I loved you. And she'd be like, nah, you really took the cake on that one. I'd be like, man, all right, cool. I just making sure I wasn't tripping, because I swear I was going the extra mile for your ass. You done made it hard for these other girls and things of that nature, and I just want to make sure, and I feel like that's healthy, because generally if we go through our life never figuring out our flaws and our defects, our subconscious, unconscious. We're not talking about stress, but we're talking about responses to stress. Because let's talk about what happens in the space of criticism without the relationship mechanics to actually get the job done, right? You say something in relation to a core hurt, that relationship is now on thin ice, and that ice is like, in 50-degree weather, right? It ain't gonna hold too much longer. It's about to break, you feel me? Because what we cannot take is criticism, right? But the beauty of criticism is if you are able to listen to criticism without being emotional, right? Because you realize it's a small pond, and surrounding that pond is all type of sturdy ass land you can stand on, and you can stand in your truth, and maybe you need to pick up your drawers a little bit better. Maybe you need to help out with bills some more. Maybe he's stressed. Maybe you thought it was what it was, but it ain't like it was because of COVID, and the situation has switched up. I'll give you another scenario. You do not know what the fuck another person is experiencing at any given moment. So your responses to stress, meaning that I'm going to give this person a second because maybe this person is having a bad day, might be a response that'll allow you to fortify a healthy, successful relationship, as opposed to going wherever a motherfucker is at. Some of these niggas is at the North Pole, and they ain't even know flights that go to the North Pole. So that means you about to teleport to the North Pole just to get into some shit with somebody, and you don't even know how to teleport back. So how the fuck you gonna get back home, right? Just because you mad, right? So generally what will happen is that our natural responses begin to change around everything. And this is when you know that your crown chakra is activated. And trust me, I'm kind of like spitballing and freestyling off my notes for the course. But I wanted to do this just in case you was like, because I'm not saying like sign up for the course because this course is for you. I'm saying sign up for the course because you interested in more of what I'm talking about now, because I'm not reading shit. I'm not like looking at shit. I'm kind of really just going off my head. So in understanding the chakras, we understand our pituitary, adrenal, hypothalamus axis. Now this is an emotional response action to stress. Our adrenals is connected to the sacral chakra, which is connected to our pituitary and hypothalamus, which connects to the third eye and the crown chakra. Now, you could basically say that the scientific understanding of the HPA axis is the exact same reference to our chakra centers. Or you could say it isn't. But based upon my study, I say that they are the same exact thing. So if I don't know nothing about the chakras, I have a wealth of information to begin to disseminate what exactly the HPA axis is, and that's hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal axis. And an axis just means a tilt or a line. It means a point, because I just referenced like a North Pole, meaning that the crown chakra is the North Pole. So let's get into this shit, because I want to give you as much as I can give you off the top of the dome. The crown chakra is your intuition. It is your space of magic. It is your spirituality. Now, what I'm talking about is we got to be very clear on this shit, because as soon as I get into explaining this, people will then begin to talk about other people and what we could begin to do for other people. You can only heal yourself. Okay? Period. It's 2021. A nigga saying that he can heal you. So what is it going to be? What are they going to do? They're going to relieve a pain that you're feeling? Then say that. But we're talking about healing. So in order to go to another person for healing, what is the time limit? Are they doing an 80-year healing process? 6 months, 60 days, 30 days, a week? You got to go every day, right? Because some of these fake healers, they would, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna judge nobody nor knock nobody hustle. So all I'm gonna say is, if you gotta re-up, you're not being healed. Generally, we're talking about an inner process, but the reason why I'm not gonna knock anything, because it could be a nice starter jumper cable for you to tap into certain type of things, to move your mind if you're having a hard time with grasping. But you don't need anything. You need to respond to stress differently. There is no actual drug. There is no actual substance. There is no actual reading. There is no actual process that can really, hypnosis possibly. But you got to then know what you're looking for. What you would be looking for ultimately was a different response to stress. Why is that so important? Because you don't know what it's like to be balanced. Because balance is not a response to stress. Is an active choice that we make. Remember earlier I said we are a sum total amount of our choices. However, the crown chakra is a different kind of choice. See, our choices that we make, I referenced this in previous videos, are in reference to the lower self, is the caterpillar life. So as much as we could imagine life in all of expansiveness and all of its astral bodies, all of the sexual escapades we might manifest down here, the trips, you name it, right? It's all related to a caterpillar's frame of being and a frame of mind. Intuition then is reflected as our butterfly self, because intuition you can't buy intuition from a store. If you know any psychic healer, if you know any fucking Reiki person, if you know any astrologer, any motherfucker out here that got intuition for sale, please DM me. However, as far as I know, you can't buy that shit. You have to actually establish that shit within your ability to respond to stress. Okay? So if you're worried about the bills, which most of us are, if you're worried about the relationship, which most of us are, what we are acknowledging is that we're unable to listen to our intuition, and because of that, we're not tuned in or tapped into our truth. We're making a conscious decision and a choice to say, hey, I'm going to align with my stress, because the way that the ego is set up in a way that it says, if you don't do exactly what I tell you to do, you'll be right there in that snake pit, right? So instead of making you go higher in life, the ego either plateaus you or sinks you deeper, but it don't put you in the snake pit. It just put the snake pit right there so you can see it. What do that look like in real life? That look like living check to check. That look like not having your shit together. That look like working for somebody. That look like being with somebody, or being in the environment with somebody that you really don't want to, and you really feel like you can't move because you're not tapped into your butterfly or your intuition. So in order to tap into your intuition, one might feel like, all right, how much money do I need? We referenced earlier, if you know somebody that's selling intuition, if you know a bodega in New York, if you know a corner store in fucking ATL, if you know a fucking Mexican in fucking Cali that's selling intuition, please DM me their details. And I know it costs a fortune. Hopefully they got an installment plan. But until then, I'm going to go under the assumption that you cannot buy intuition. Thus, you have to actually create intuition in your being. So how does one create intuition? You do not worry about the stressful shit. You let go of the stress. But you can't tell me, oh, I'm living a stressful life. Because guess what, family? I don't give a fuck if you live in a stressful life or not. Because the reality of me worrying about your stressful life is the reality that 10 times out of 10, you only gonna worry about you know how many times, like being a reader and being out here in these spiritual streets, and you be rooting for people to let their ex go, and they be like, I'm still with him, and they be like, girl, we said we was gonna let him go, and he's a cheater, and you was about to, move on. Yeah, I know, but the dick too good. And it's just like, well, okay, but if I'm giving my energy into that, and that person is still gonna do their own shit anyway, the best thing that I can do as a astrologer, right, or as an advisor, as a teacher, as anything you want to call me, as an author, the best thing that I can do, all my healers out there, all my readers out there, all my tarot cards, all my astrologers, you cannot help these people. The only way that you can help them is when you show up to that reading in complete balance of your stress response system. Because what we tend to do is go into our readings with stressful energy, right? And then the reading be off, right? But hopefully, if you like me, I don't listen to no music with words if it's a reading day. If it ain't avant-garde jazz, and then it's some binaurals, or it's something, right? Because generally you don't want to tap into no other frequencies but the intuitive frequencies. So the problem with music with words is that it's tuned into the ego frequency, which is tapped into the caterpillar. So it could be it could be the most righteous of things, the most righteous of pursuits. But if you aren't trying to let go of your ego, then you're not trying to understand your intuition. So let's get into what our intuition is. Freestyling. Off the top of the dome. All I need is a beat right now, I tell you. But no. Our intuition is connected to our collective consciousness. And the collective consciousness is every answer in the world. And intuition only presents itself in the present. And in order to tune into your intuition, you have to let go of your emotional response, because your emotional response is just too goddamn on stubborn. It's always going to transmogrify some shit and always have you chasing waterfalls and things of that nature, as opposed to just being balanced in the moment. Yesterday, I got on this live and I asked for money. I'm gonna tell y'all 2 crazy shits that happened. Just practicing this. I asked for money, and Prime Harmonic sent me some money, and I really appreciate that. But somebody else sent me some money, man, and they sent me a lot of fucking money. I was like, yo, wait a second. Thank you, because you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, this is my only vehicle. So if I lose this vehicle, I'm going to be on the bus. So generally, you know, me and my wife have a general goal of how we see things and how we want things. And it generally works out that way. We just don't know how. But I tell you, I just was playing. I was like, man, somebody send me some money. I really need it. I was just joking. I said it jokingly. Dog, somebody was like, yo, hold this. And I was like, yo, that's when I knew there is a God. Another thing, man. I promise you, no cap, no lie. I've been having struggle credit for a year now. I've been working on my credit. I've been building my credit, and I feel like sometimes I do too much, and the credit bureaus, you know, when you do too much, the credit bureaus see you, they be like, yo, knock that shit down. So I will always feel like, damn, I take 2 steps up, take 10 steps back, man, you know, but I was still keeping it together. I wasn't even tripping about it. I had my regimen, and what my regimen was like, only use 1/3 of my credit, but when they come around to the first, just pay all of my shit, right? Pay all of my shit clean to the whistle, you feel me? But then spend only 1/3. I've been doing that for like the past few months. I ain't noticed a difference. So I took a mugwort foot soak bath because I was more in the space of just grounding. And something told me, like, I've been telling my wife that I was going to take a mudwork foot soak bath for, like, I don't know how long. And then she came, and then she took it to another level. I ain't even going to say what she did. We just going to leave that part out. But long story short, I took a detox mugwort foot bath. I had my phone because it was like a spa experience. I felt like I was at the salon. All I need is Ming Lee to bring out the goddamn file and shit like that. Other than that, man, that shit was paradise. I promise you, if you feel like, damn, you need to restart or recharge, mugwort, we sell mugwort at the shop if you need it. It's only $3 a bag, but link is in the bio. Like, I'm just saying, like, I don't give a fuck if you don't buy mugwort, right? Because I'm going to use the shit anyways. I'm just saying, you can go to your Botanica, to your herb shop, whatever the case may be, mugwort. Get you like a good gallon. Boil a good gallon. Get you a foot soak. They like $20 at Walmart, right? $20, bro. I tell you, this shit is priceless. That's why I'm tweaking so hard. But anyways, a gallon, boil the mugwort in there. Make sure it's boiled, and you know, when it sit right, and then it's going to be real hot, so it's going to have to sit an additional. I was trying to get in there. I was like, you know, like that. So it'd be like probably like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Just enough to get your foot, and we got the massage heating joint on that boy. Woo! Get my feet in there. Woo! Just sat there, play on my phone, whatever. You know, watch TV, whatever. Just catch the vibe for about 20, 30 minutes. I swear to God, I ain't never felt so good. I'm just like, okay, this is powerful. Cause it was like, I don't know why I was just so led and driven to do it. But when I did it, I was just like, okay, yes, you know what I'm saying? But the craziest shit happened after I did that. My credit score went up 100 fucking points, like in the middle of the night, like no cap, I promise. Like that shit went sky. I said, what the fuck? I thought it was a typo. Listen, I be waking up every morning checking my credit. Like I know they done fucked up. No cap. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I say it's a miracle behind that detox, because whatever broke energy that I had in my left toe, that shit got sucked out. You know, you generally, before you do the foot soak, you do a nice little pedicure. Why not, right? Don't be a savage your whole life. You feel me? So I did a nice little pedicure. Had my toes looking as best as they could, you know, and just kind of sat in that mugwort bath. And man, oh man, I promise you, it was transformational. And ever since then, you know, it's been like so generally I got goals and ambitions and things of that nature, and I'll be closing out. But I got dreams and goals and ambitions and things that I want to do with my life, but sometimes I feel blocked like the next person. And what I'm noticing is that the outer world is determined by the inner world, and the inner world is more centered in releasing toxins that are either disrupting or is deeply tied into your stress response. So whether it's sugar, flour, salt, these things are deeply related to your stress response, whether you know it or not. So your ability to release it, even in the external, no, I'll pass. And then more tied into like either fasting. I'm seeing fasting working for a lot of people, or more water intake if you're not a faster. But generally, man, it's really important to clear out and really deal with your emotional body. And your emotional body is not centered in good or bad. Please, let's be clear about this. Because if we imagine that we talking about good or bad, then we're not in the space of understanding this. We're talking about distancing and observing your emotional body. And within observation, you're not trying to manipulate the ocean to say, or the river to say, okay, I want you to go to the left, or I want you to sway to the north. Oh, the tide is high, I need the tide to lower. You cannot do that. That's impossible. The only thing you could do is observe, oh, the river is going to the east today. The river is going to the west today. Oh, the tide is high today. Oh, the tide is low today. That's all you can fucking do. You observe your emotions. Some days, emotionally, you'll be very receptive. And when you're receptive, you'll be criticized. The beauty of criticism, if you act on that criticism, then that means that that's all you probably needed to do to reach that threshold or to cross that threshold. But the ability to not tap into what that criticism is really deep tied into, then that's going to be your overall block. Because what happens when you're criticized, you generally will shut down. I know I would. So what's the next step for spiritual beings having a human experience? The next step to criticism is really finding what you can do to heal that. So if a person was to say that to you again, you would have been actually actively working on it, as opposed to imagining a different response, as opposed to actively working towards that pain, or working towards that neglect, or working towards whatever shit that you lacking on. Because we are here to learn. We are here to improve. One thing that people get confused about this life shit is that everything that they think about is true. Now, our thoughts is not our intuition. Our thinking is connected to our ego. Our intuition is very active in its presentation. When your intuition speaks to you, it is very transformational. And another key is that most people don't experience their intuition because they're too busy thinking. So if any of this interests you, I'm going into this in full detail. Trust me, the class is going to be much more organized, and there is much more information that I'll be talking about. And I'm just now scratching the surface. And I'm saying all of that not to say, hey, hurry up and sign up. Maybe this is too deep for you. Maybe this ain't something that you wouldn't be interested in, but you might know somebody else that would be. So ultimately, man, I'm just kind of bicking back, being bull, just kind of shooting the shit. But I'm about to return to my family and enjoy the rest of my evening. And with all of that being said, I invite y'all to check the links in my bio, whether you're trying to get some mugwort, or you're trying to book a reading, or you're trying to sign up for the class. The shit is going down February 20th, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is the last Chakra Nova course. So, for all of the people that have supported thus far, I want to thank you. And this last course is, I'm open to criticism to make it a course that everybody can vibe with. So if in the space between now and the 20th, you have something to add, you took a course, it was something that you didn't like about it, please let me know so I can make some edits now. Because the worst thing that I want to do is be a person that got his head up his own ass. I want to be receptive to anything that you have to say, and feel free to be negative. Just be authentic, be positive, just keep it 100 with me. I'll keep it 100 with you, because one thing about me is that I'm not perfect. If I ever got on this internet and portrayed myself to be perfect, or people get the impression that I am perfect, that's not my truth. My truth is that I was at a very low space, and I began to reflect on my perfect soul, and it has lifted me and ascended me up to heights that I never could imagine. I never would imagine that in a matter of years I would be an author, and I got a whole bunch of orders right now on my desk that's getting sent out tomorrow, and I got more orders to send out, and it's crazy to me. And I say all of that to say, I remember not really being shit not too long ago. So with all of that being said, man, healing yourself is the real deal. And that's what we getting into the science of. If you thinking that something else can heal you, something out there in the world is going to heal you, then you need to find that. But if you feel like you can heal yourself, this is the perfect class. And we get into the mechanics and the science in relation to the central nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, from the pituitary gland to the adrenal gland to the kundalini gland. We're getting very in depth in understanding the chakras and how they relate to the human body. And I just don't know other way to be. So I'm going to just end with that. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Peace.